does anybody want a fresh lemon? Man, happy Mother's Day, you guys. So good to see you. I know, we got fresh lemons over here. I wish I could say maybe there was a special sticker or something. No, you just get a fresh lemon today. So there you are. Give it up for them. Thank you, wonderful helpers. Well, good morning to you guys. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms in the room. And if you're watching online, we're so happy that you're joining us. My name is Pastor Haley, and I am the high school pastor here. So shout out to all my high schoolers. And I think some of them are in the room, but the 9 o'clock, I had no hope, okay? It's just far too early for them. That's why we do our service in the evening. So that's guaranteed they'll be there. Well, I am so excited to be here with you on this Mother's Day. It's a very special one for me. It is my very first Mother's Day as a mom. So excited. I would love to show you my family. So up here we have my husband Jacob and my son Callum. But this picture doesn't do my son's hair justice. So I had to show you. There he is. Some of you have seen him, me carrying him in the lobby, or, we're so loved here. He's so loved. Half the time, it's not even me carrying him around the lobby. We're very fortunate. But without a doubt, every day, all we hear, his hair. And it's true. His hair is growing and growing and growing. I don't style it that way. It just naturally has a nice flow, okay? And I say, my husband tries to do his hair that way. People pay good money for that. So there you have it. But I'm so excited to be here with you and share this day with all of you moms. And as we start talking about the lemons, you saw them as you came in. Some of you received a very handy lemon. Hope you have a great time. I have a question for you. That being, are you thirsty? Okay, so when you see lemonade, I immediately get thirsty, okay? Who here is a lemonade fan? I'm gonna ask for a lot of interaction today because that's what we do in high school. The 9 o'clock was a little bit sleepy, I'm not gonna lie. So here's to hoping. But are you thirsty? Some of you, as parents, as maybe a boss, as a friend, are constantly turning lemons into lemonade. Now, specifically for those who are parents here today, maybe you have helped your kids in the past create their own lemonade stand, or maybe you had your own lemonade stand as a kid, okay? So who here has helped their kids make a lemonade stand before, okay? Who here you remember as a kid selling your own lemonade, all right? Well, for those that have done this before, I want to speak to those in the room who maybe you're the parent that when your kids say, Mom, please, can I go sell lemonade? You're like, yes, and I've already run the numbers. The hours that are gonna be best for profit time are 2 to 4. That's when everybody's coming home. Now you're gonna want to go up the street on the corner right there, and you wanna flag those people down. I wanna see you working and sweating if you don't come home with $50. We're gonna try again tomorrow until you nail it, okay? You know if you are that parent. You also know if you're the parent and they say, Mom, Dad, please, can I go sell lemonade? And you're like, sure, yeah, I don't know where you're gonna get the lemonade, but if you could find it somewhere, yeah, that'd be great. Well, can we sell water? You're like, yeah. You think you're gonna be gone for about 3 hours? I got some Netflix to catch up on, so yeah, go for it, okay? You know if you're that parent as well. But today we're not just talking about actual lemonade stands. We're talking about life here. And the moments in which we have to help others turn their lemons into lemonade. Some of you, you're those people. You're the advocate. You're the encourager, and you love to help somebody. But who is doing that for you in your life? Who's taking those sour things and making them into something sweet? Well, there's a perfect story in the Bible, but I want to set it up for you. We have Jesus and his disciples, and they're walking. They do a lot of walking. And they're walking from Judea to Galilee, which that travel would have been about 93 miles. So, who here, my cardio lovers, like to walk? Okay, that was sweet. That was very sweet. Any runners? Yeah, less hands. I see all of you, and I'm with you, and I feel that on an emotional level, okay? I'm not a runner. Some people are like, yeah, I love to run. Well, the 93 miles that they would have had to walk, think of the terrain, the mountains, the hills, the weather, all of the different things that they would have had to do to get there or walk through. So the reason why I had you raise your hand is because for those of you who said, yes, I love to walk, and for those 5 that said, I like to run, you could do that travel in about 6 days. The rest of us peasants would follow you and make it in about 2 weeks. So while you set up camp for us, we'll just be moseying on down. I'm the kind of person that would like to stop at every watering hole, every tree in the shade, and say, yeah, let's set up camp here. We have a destination to get to. So Jesus and his disciples, they're making this trek. And the reason why it would typically take a very, very long time is because every group would go around the town of Samaria. Jews and Samaritans were enemies for multiple reasons, a couple being for race, another one being because they didn't agree on the places to worship. So every group would travel around Samaria, making their travels that much longer. Well, Jesus, who never plays by the rules, decides we're gonna go through the town. So that's where we pick up. John chapter 4, verse 7. Jesus is walking up to a well. Soon a Samaritan woman came to draw water, and Jesus said to her, please give me a drink. And keeps going. He was alone at the time because his disciples had gone into the village to buy some food. So Jesus is here, this woman is here, and it's about the middle of the day. Well, women would go to this well every single day, but they would go in the mornings or they would go in the evenings. So it's a little bit strange that we find ourselves here with this woman in the middle of the day. Reasons being, again, she's a part of a hated race. This woman we find to be a prostitute, so she knows that her lifestyle is not approved of in this town. She's been divorced multiple times. And all of a sudden, this man who she does not know begins speaking to her. Well, like I said, Jesus never plays by the rules. He likes to throw us off a little bit. So when he spoke to her, it was shocking. And you know, I think it's safe to say that whenever Jesus speaks to us, it's a little bit shocking. But in this moment, she didn't know that it was Jesus. So what's weird to her is that it's going against Jewish customs, a man talking to a woman, a Jew talking to a Samaritan. And the fact that he said, please give me a drink, implies he wants to use her cup, which would make him ceremonially unclean. We're looking at a bowl of lemons here. Some sour things. All of those things do not add up. And all of a sudden, she gets a little bit on the defense side. So we continue on. It says, the woman was surprised, for Jews refused to have anything to do with Samaritans. She said to Jesus, you are a Jew, and I'm a Samaritan woman. Why are you asking me for a drink? So again, think about the lifestyle that she was living. This unknown man comes up to her. Did she think that Jesus had some ulterior motives? She think, why is this man here in the middle of the day? Why is this man breaking my routine? We all have routines. They're different for all of us. Some of you can go with the flow a little bit more than others, and that's okay. Some of you have to stick with your everyday routine. So when things throw you off, they could really throw you off. For example, sick kid. Let's say you have a presentation at work. Your kid wakes you up in the middle of the night, throwing up. You're like, I don't have time for this. I do not have time for this. Or when we had to do everything on Zoom and your kids were in the background. Hello! You're like, I do not have time for this. Getting pulled over on your way to church, maybe? Maybe it's happened. It's happened to a couple of my high schoolers before, and it threw them off. Safe to say, it throws any teenager off when they can get a ticket on their way to church. My favorite excuse has been, or they come running in, Pastor Haley, we got pulled over, but we said we were going to church. Okay. And then what did you do? Well, I showed them my Bible. And did you get a ticket? Well, yes. Okay. So next time, even if you have a Bible, just don't speed, okay? It throws our routine off, and maybe some of you have been there before. Or that one extra trip to the grocery store. You're home, you're settled in, you need more diapers. As a new mom, I've experienced this a couple of times. Had to do the late night trip to the store, but my favorite had to have been the first blowout. It's about 2 a.m., still learning. I'm like, okay, I'm half awake at this point, half asleep. It's all over me, and my husband, my dear husband, he's looking at me. He sees it take place. He said, I understand. This is just how, I cannot. I said, honey, I understand this is disgusting. I need you to hand me a diaper. I can't, it's all over you. And I was like, yep, and it's gonna happen again. But I love my husband. He's doing great. He's writing my slides for me this morning, so I get to poke a little bit of fun over at him. Those different moments, they throw you off. And there are little things, maybe for those of you who aren't parents, maybe it is that extra school project that you weren't planning on. I know for my high schoolers, staying up till 4 a.m. And they said, I forgot I had a test the next day. Okay. There are different things that we're like, man, the day was going so well. And the same thing happens when God comes into our life. It's typically out of our convenience, amen? I've been there. I've had moments where God has come in and he speaks into my life. I'm like, yeah, no, that doesn't really work for me, God. I don't really love that. And that's what's happening here. Jesus has now walked up to this woman and it's breaking her routine. So we continue on in the story. Jesus replies to her and says, if only you knew the gift God has for you and who you are speaking to, you would ask me and I would give you living water. The best part of that has to be when he says, if only you knew. We say, look, God, look at these lemons that I have. This woman, I wrote on this one, she was a social outcast. She wasn't liked by people outside of her town, nor within her town. God, look at the things that I'm stuck with. On this one, I wrote, unworthy. Maybe she thought, I'm not even worthy of a proper relationship. This man doesn't even want me for me. He just wants me here for a glass of water. He doesn't even want to be with me for a conversation. She may have had divorce on her lemons, lonely on her lemons. Some of you are sitting there and you've lost sight of the things, the wonderful sweet lemonade that you have to sell. You're sitting at your own lemonade stand and you're like, I got some lemons here. I can't even make them into lemonade. It's all I can pass out. It's all God's given me. I don't really have much to work with. I want you to ask yourself the question, what is sour in your life? Maybe you've been laid off. Say, God, I don't have a job. Maybe you've been working overtime, and because of that, you don't get to spend proper time at home with your family or with your friends. Not to mention marriage, which could be a whole nother message in itself. Marriage is hard. And so you're trying to work at it, but because you've been working so long and so hard, you just want to come home and crash. You just want to put on the TV. You haven't had a proper conversation with your spouse. Or maybe you haven't felt love from your spouse. You're thinking, this is hard, God. Maybe you've been seeking friendships. You say, man, they talk about community and connection a lot at church. I just wish I had that. If I were to hand you a lemon, what would yours say on it? Broken, lost, busy, stressed. Imagine you're sitting at your lemonade stand saying, that's all I got for you. And Jesus walks up to your stand and says, oh man, if only I could tell you the wonderful things that I have for you. Is anybody, I've been talking about lemons a lot here and lemonade. Is anybody actually thirsty here? I mean, yes, come get this lemonade. It's gonna be really good. It smells sweet. You're like, man, that's a nice picture of lemonade up there. Jesus says, I have living water for you. I have something so sweet for you. How is it? I got a thumbs up, good. And we're like, man, I don't know if you can do anything with this, God. That's exactly what happens as we continue on. He said, okay, can you give me a glass of water? I can give you living water. She says, but sir, you don't have a rope or a bucket. And this well is very deep. So she's already started to doubt. Man, you don't even have the tools to get this water out of here. When God asks you something in your life, are you immediately filled with doubt on the defensive side? And God, you don't have the tools to properly work with me, and I'm a very special person, God. Okay? I'm gonna have my assistant send you my schedule. This is when you can come in. If only it were that nice. She continues on and says, where would you get this living water? And besides, do you think you're greater than our ancestor Jacob who gave us this well? How can you offer better water than he and his sons and his animals enjoyed? So now she's getting sassy. And for the men in the room, you're like, I would be scared. She's asking a lot of questions and she's just spitfiring. That's when you're like, I'm gonna let you simmer. I'm gonna let you just think about those questions. Gonna go do something productive. I understand it, I get it. I can sense that she is immediately getting on the defense. How do you think you're gonna get this water? Do you think that you're better than our ancestors? Maybe God has approached you in your life and you got on the defensive side right away. And it's okay to ask questions. He encourages us to ask questions. He wants us to be in conversation with him always. But are you doing it to get clarification? Or are you doing it to start a war with God? What does that look like for you? You see, we need to ask the right questions. And the story continues. It says, verse 13, Jesus replied, anyone who drinks this water will soon become thirsty again. So Callum, my son, he's only 4 months, so he doesn't speak words. But I know he will get to this point where he asks the question, why? Why are we going here? Why can't I have that toy? Why can't I have that snack? Okay, parents in the room, is that an accurate description of what's going to happen in my life? Thank you. I need your help on this, okay? I'm a new mom, gotta just warn me of these things. And I know this one's coming. I've done babysitting before. Mom, why? Why? Dad, why? How come? Why? Why not this? Why not this? And some of you may have used the parenting technique that Jesus used here. He just avoids all questions, okay? You may have turned the music all the way up in the car. Then yeah, maybe hopefully this will answer your question. Maybe it became a moment where you said, wow, doing the dishes right now seems actually kind of nice. I'm gonna go do that. This woman asked all these different questions. Why? How come? Who do you think you are? Jesus doesn't answer any of them. How annoying. We've been there with God. I know I've been there with God. I've asked him, what are you doing? And he just continues to work in my life. Yeah, I'll get to it. Because we do need to ask the right questions. What are you asking him? How are you asking him? Maybe instead of saying, I don't really know what you're supposed to do with all of this. I mean, I could barely hold all of them. Would you say, God, where are you leading me? Where are you taking me, God? I want to follow you. I do. Where are you taking me? Or maybe you're holding all these things instead of saying, you don't have the tools. How are you going to do this? Say, how will you use this? How are you going to use me and my sour things, God? Because I know that you will. How? And instead of saying, why me? Why do I have to go through all of these things, God? Nobody else seems to be struggling. We can still say, God, why me? But maybe you can flip the switch a little bit and say, why do you want to use me in this story? Where are you going to put me in your story? Believe that when Jesus walks up to you, when he comes to your stand, he says, trust me on this. I have something so sweet. You are a part of the story. So he said this to her. And she goes on to say, please, sir, give me this water. Well, she doesn't quite understand it yet. She's still thinking, oh, he's talking about actual physical water that I need to drink. She doesn't understand it all the way. So it keeps going. Then I'll never be thirsty again, and I won't have to come here to get water. It says, go and get your husband, Jesus told her. I don't have a husband, the woman replied. Jesus said, you're right. You don't have a husband. This is where Jesus starts to address the lemons in her life that are so obviously sitting there. And he doesn't say, you're right. You've been married 5 times, and the man you're with now, you're not married to. You're right. You're a social outcast. You're right, you're all alone. No, he doesn't do that to condemn you. When he addresses your entire bowl, your platter, your table full of lemons, he's not saying, look at these things, you should be ashamed. He's saying, look at the things that I'm going to use for my glory. Look at the things, look at the sour things in your life that I'm going to just dismiss, and I'm going to love on you no matter what. Despite what you're holding right here in your hands, despite the anger that you have, I'm going to use you anyways. And I'm going to make it sweet anyways. I'm going to turn your lemons into lemonade, and I'm going to use your influence. The woman left her water jar beside the well and she ran back to the village, telling everyone, "Come and see a man who told me everything I ever did. Could he possibly be the Messiah?" So the people came streaming from the village to see him. Many Samaritans from the village believed in Jesus because the woman had said, "He told me everything I ever did." This story started as a lemon story. Started with some hard cardio. It started with a conversation that was never meant to happen between a man and a woman, a Jew and a Samaritan. It started with a woman who was a social outcast in her town, who was lonely and felt broken. And because she let Jesus interrupt her life, interrupt her routine, her village, not just her, but her village, believed in Jesus. Imagine the things that could happen if you let Jesus come in and disturb your life a little bit. Don't settle. Did anybody actually try their lemon here today? No. Because I wasn't kind enough to give you a straw, I understand. That would have been a lot easier. But don't settle for that. Some of you in this room are saying, "I guess this is what I have, and I guess it's all I'm gonna walk out with. I'm just gonna have my lemon. That's all I got. I guess I'm just meant to be alone. I guess I'm just meant to be busy all the time. I guess I'm just not meant to have time with my family. I guess I'm just meant to be stuck here with this addiction. I guess this is all I get to have." Don't settle. Jesus doesn't want you to settle. He wants you to enjoy something so sweet. And he wants you to share that with other people. He wants to use your story so that you could go out and say, "Man, you get a glass of lemonade and you get a glass and it is so wonderful and you're gonna love it and you're gonna come running back for more." I've had a few lemons in my life. One that I'm most fond of is working in children's ministry. It wasn't a sour thing. I loved working with kids. In fact, I know that God called me into kids. When I first started ministry, I was in the kids zone for 1.5 years, and I loved it. We had the best time because kids are awesome. About 1.5 years later, God called me to high school ministry, and I said, "No. I will not go. You have planted me here, so I will stay here." Some of you know and can relate to the telling God, "No." Well, just like being a parent, that typically doesn't go over well when your kids say no. And there were different moments that he would drop in and say, "But look at the ways that I'm gonna use you. It's gonna be great. It's so fun." I was like, have you ever met a teenager? They're scary. They say weird terms and like do weird dance moves, and I don't really know what's going on, and they're figuring out their life. God, I'm really quite fine in kids. We had some conversations. I didn't ask the right questions. And now, I'm so proud to say that I'm the high school pastor because high school ministry is really the best. We have so much fun. Yeah. They ask me hard questions, and I love it. They make me a better pastor. They help me dive into my Bible. One time, a student asked me, "How are you so trendy?" I said, "Well, fun fact, I'm not actually that old." And I love it. They teach me weird dance moves. I know all the slang. I don't know what it means, but I know it. And I am so happy that God said, "Look, Haley, let me use you. Let me show you the potential that you have. Let me walk with you." It's the greatest time. because he wants us to be satisfied. I tell my students all the time to be influential, to go out, to invite people to church, and it's hard, I understand that. But then they'll come back and they'll say, oh man, I invited so-and-so to this event, and I can see the joy on their face. And you know that feeling when you've seen a kid, maybe you're a parent or a volunteer, and you see kids beaming with joy because of how proud of themselves they are. God wants us to feel that same way with our influence. So why should it stop with kids? Why should we stop with a bowl of lemons when it can be so much sweeter? I would love for you all to stand at this time. In the middle here, we have some bowls of lemons, and I know it might seem silly just grabbing one. But like I said, I wrote some negative things on here: divorce, loneliness, social outcast, unworthy, unwanted, broken. Let's flip the switch today. On your way out, before you leave, I would love for you to just grab one lemon and write something sweet on it. Write something that's joyful in your life. And if you're having a hard time seeing what that is, write the word potential, write the word influence, because Jesus has something sweet for you. And it is so good, and he's gonna use your story. Go home and tell your kids about what you wrote. If you're watching online, this is a moment of reflection for you, to go over the things that are joyful and positive in your life right now. I would love to pray for all of you if you'd bow your heads with me. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for being present here today. I ask that you would just be with every single one of us in this room, that we would feel your presence, that you would show us a glimpse of the sweetness that you have, that we would use our influence to bring more people in to talk about the living water that you have, that today we would not walk out with sour things in our life, but sweet things, God. We thank you for the mothers in this room, and that you would bless them today. In your name we pray, amen. I just remind you to grab your lemon. You can write on them here or write on them when you get home, but I hope you have something sweet in your life, and happy Mother's Day.